welcome to Grounded Reality. I'm here with Nick of Raw Studios, and we're just going to explore a little bit of his kind of, I guess, creative mindset and the creative journey he's been on to kind of become a product designer. I would actually generally love some chairs.
Well, come and take your pick, mate. I've got about 3 or 4 that are
Really?
nearly ready to go. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Different designs, but all designed to kind of make you sit right.
Yeah.
You know, like this just doesn't.
No. These are like, I think they were.
Yeah, you can tell it's basically like it's basically like a school chair underneath.
Yeah.
But the way that they make them, they can't design them. They can't get them out of the mold tool.
Yeah.
In a way that they're supposed to be to make you sit right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you started like selling some chairs then?
Yeah. I mean, I've got the ones, different ranges that I do, but I've got some ones that are, a bit more thought through on the posture stuff. Because 20 years ago, I used to work for a wheelchair company in Bangladesh, making wheelchairs for kids with cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
And they had this amazing design, a charity called Motivation.
Yeah.
They are just the greatest. But they designed this wheelchair for kids with cerebral palsy because, like, in kind of, third world or whatever you call it these days, countries, of which Bangladesh is, one, all the disabled kids would just get stuck in an adult wheelchair. Yeah. So kids with just cerebral palsy would all end up, like this, because their posture had been wrecked, So
permanent damage then.
Yeah, totally. That's it for life. They're stuck, and it makes them kind of look kind of more straight, less kind of normal, if you will. But I said to David, whose charity it is, I said, so actually this posture system should work for everyone, really, right? Because what it does is hold your pelvis at the right angle and make your spine sit correctly. So you don't need back support to kind of encourage you to have a healthy posture. I'll fix you up with one of those or 2 of those. If you want.
That sounds very interesting. Like, so what did you do differently then? How did you change it to improve it?
Well, the system for the cerebral palsy kids, it was based around holding the pelvis at the right angle, and you can do it now, right? Have a test, right? So make yourself sit in a position you think sort of healthy for your back, right?
Probably like that.
Bit like that, right?
Yeah.
But without trying to kind of force it, right? The easiest way to make you sit like that is for your pelvis to sit at the correct angle, right?
Okay.
So this chair basically has a low back support, which sits around like where your belt is.
Yeah. You kind of feel it.
And it, you sit on it, wiggle around, you go, oh, that feels right, and then you're in the right position. And it makes your spine sit correctly.
But then you start to slump.
Well, it actually starts to be uncomfortable if you slump, right? Because your pelvis is like that, and then if you start to slump like that, you're actually putting a lot of weight on your back, and it just doesn't seem right.
Graphic designer back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But because half the problem is, a lot of the chairs that are designed for posture depend on a load of back support, but back support's kind of the fundamental problem. That a lot of people have a relatively weak back because they're always sat in a chair that's supporting them, right? So anyway, I need to show you the chair so you get an idea. Talking about it doesn't really do it justice. But
is it one of the ones on the website at the moment?
It's not actually, no.
Yeah. Is it the same as us, where the website kind of becomes a thing that you won't touch for a few years and come back to it? That's right, mate. Yeah. I've got a new one written during lockdown that's kind of not up yet, finished. Yeah. But in a way, it's become my excuse. Is that I'm too busy making stuff to do all of that. Yeah. Yeah, we've got to the point where it's just like everything's changing so quickly in like these new technologies that it's just like we can't keep up on updating.
You just spend all your time doing the website and not anything useful.
Yeah, so I've ended up putting all my time's been in sales packs. The sales pack like perfectly explains what we're doing.
Yeah.
The website's just like it's getting there. Yeah. We just need to actually spend some time. It's a labour of love websites. I think.
Yeah, or necessary evil.
Yeah. I will not touch a WordPress website ever again. I did 2 back when I was like younger, and I'm like, no, never again.
See, still my favourite website I ever had was like the first one I did, where I wrote it on a piece of paper and ripped up the little bits for the kind of click links, and then took a series of photographs, right? So that like basically each page was a handwritten image.
Oh, that's quite cool.
Right? Well, it was. Yeah. But then my friend who's like, oh, like the search engines just can't do anything with it. Okay, so what do I have to do? And then it was like, oh, so the initial bodge was, white text on white background just underneath it. All the, like, like all these algorithms kind of dilute or kind of take you away from the focus, really. So it ended up being, there's just no point making a website like that, even though it was like really real and authentic, handwritten and stuff.
Can you not get away with it?
You could now, but it would probably take 100 times longer than actually just writing it, writing it down, because you've got to like refake everything. Yeah. For it to all tick all the SEO boxes and whatever. Yeah. So,
Well, there's an artist on that shelf that I always kind of go to, and he does that kind of. His style is like just scrub it down. Daniel Arshram.
Oh right.
It's like all his work is. I'll show it in a bit.
Yeah.
Like, just write it.
Yeah.
He's not very like. Don't go into. It's very graphical, but in like a sketchy way. It's very cool.
Oh yeah, we'll have a look at that.
It's like kind of what he does is he takes kind of modern art or modern kind of cultural references, and takes what kind of like what would happen if it was like the past, but then like kind of slightly destroyed. This kind of destructive.
Oh, I need to look at that because
destructive art, but using like really old materials, so like marbles and like metals and minerals and it's proper smart.
I'm doing some stuff like that at the minute with some kind of metal work, which is like basically brackets to be able to make your own chair out of anything you want, or your own table out of anything you want, which is kind of harking back a little bit to sort of Victorian-ish engineering, where something would be made really functional but would have an aesthetic to it. I think for however many decades now, things that are just like brackets and whatever become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and a lot of people, a shop can sell it because it's cheap, but they're just dead boring commodity things.
I don't think people understand how to use a bracket as well.
Well, they know exactly. That's the fundamental problem is like, right, okay, here is you might have your DIY tools, but then what are the extra components that make making the rest of something loads easier? Like what would be a good example? I don't know. We'll think of one later.
So what would someone just find like reclaimed wood and?
Yeah, I mean, so if you had a few brackets, right, and an old pallet that you found in the street, you could quickly make a piece of furniture out of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool then.
So it takes all the, the woodwork and everything out of it. It just makes it simple. Yeah. But it works. It's yours. You learn something. You can teach the kids how to do it as well. And if you don't like pallet wood, you can make it out of like your old kitchen table, or that sort of thing. Yeah.
Like modern Lego.
Exactly. Yeah, Lego, but that won't like break when you sit on it in a way, or like a bit of a cross between
I'm sure if you got the cheapest wood.
Yeah. Well, that's all part of the process. You know, you really learn by failure, right?
Yeah.
So, don't use that screw on that bit anyway. You know.
Actually, just digging into it, learning by failure.
Yeah.
What have you learned again? Like, I guess over the years through failing.
You don't get put off by failing, right? I suppose I'm one for like not really liking to share failure, which is why I've got loads of broken things in the shed, you know, and I don't kind of take pictures of everything and do videos and post them online because, you know, I don't really want to be known by failure. Then I mean, failure within kind of product design, which I suppose I kind of come from. In a way, because I've got an engineering degree, first of all, I've maybe got a bit more of an idea of how things do work. Yeah. You know, so I don't come from the like artistic kind of background of let's draw a nice chair and then make it work. Yeah. My process is more about the materials and processes and what do they allow to be made, you know. If you see what I mean. So, So if I find out about a new process or a new material, I'll go, okay, what can I do with that?
Try it.
That's right.
Until it works.
Yeah. And the best way to get to a useful product is to make stuff that breaks quickly. Yeah. You learn way more by finding where something breaks. Okay, well, that's the bit that needs to have more thought about it being stronger, you know. Test everything to failure. And
how many failed chairs were there before?
Oh, loads, because I can't be bothered like doing things properly when it comes to prototypes. It's like, have I got a bit of the right length? Just shove that on. Is this the right size screw? No. Well, it might be, it might not, but I'm not going to spend 10 minutes.
Like design through iterations.
Yeah. But that first one, I mean, it's one I think really pushed by IDEO, if you've heard of them. Out of San Francisco, you know, is build first prototype straight away. You know, half the time, you know, I might build something before even sketching it. You know, in your mind, you're still trying to work out the sort of 3D layout. Yeah. So sometimes it's easier just to build rather than sketch, and that's why, like, also I think that these days it's really obvious to find when you see a product that's been designed on a computer, it's really obvious.
Really?
Compared to something that's been crafted. Yeah.
What are the kind of like key flaws of
in a way, like when you think of the viewport of the screen, right, that view is only giving you a single perspective at once. Yeah. Right? Not that you can see multiple perspectives in real life, but you can move things quickly. You know, you can move around. You know, you're your own sort of movable lens. Yeah. And also your hands. You know. Yeah. You think, is that the right radius on that? Yeah, it looks right, but you haven't touched it.
And you haven't. It's not physical.
Yeah. You know, when it's things that are going to be touched and used in people's hands, I think things that are designed in hand are much better, you know, well, much more feel right, you know. You don't need to see it to touch something and know that it feels right.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a fair point. Yeah, it's like, I guess, because obviously what we're doing is so unreal, like literally Unreal Engine sort of vibe. Yeah. So I guess it is that like we want to replicate the real world because the real world is designed correctly, and bringing that into kind of the non-real.
So in a way, if I think about your project where you like map out Morecambe, you've kind of taken that real world and put it into that space.
But it's already been designed by someone, and
yeah. So it'd be really interesting to see on a on a smaller scale how much things really match up to what is reality. But those sorts of environments you're doing aren't actually, you know, held in hand products, are they? So it's not that you're missing out on it. It's just a completely different use of the technology.
Yeah. I guess it's also like looking towards the future of like how our immersive technology is going to improve, I guess, the physical production. I think there is an element of like you will be able to digitally, physically touch things, and I guess that in a way might even change.
I think that's not even there yet.
No,
really. I mean,
it's a far vision.
Yeah,
of what could be the future.
That's right. But even thinking about what do you actually need to make that a reality? I mean, or to actually experience touch without touching something. Yeah. I think it's probably going to be an implant in your brain before it is something physical. Yeah. In a suit or a.
I think there's an element of like, I guess it's not going to be real, but they are looking at like Apple Watches and having haptics, because with the new Apple device that they've launching, there's no remotes. It's all hand gestures. Yeah. So you kind of like click and type. They're looking at like haptics through an Apple Watch, but obviously you only have one Apple Watch, so you would only have one haptic feedback.
And that's going to be in where the watch is. You can't magically send that somewhere else. So no. Well, that's interesting. The interesting thing with the interface devices is, it's easy to make an input in whatever way you want by position and touch, like we're working on with Infotex. The feedback is
just never going to be right.
It's a long way. It's a long way.
It's like pipe dream.
You still need something physical to actually change its texture, shape, whatever, to experience it.
And I guess you'd also have to measure every texture, shape, and like the input of the output of the haptics as well.
So when you look at how much research and development and prototyping would have to go in that, you're probably better actually trying to plumb it straight into someone's brain, or like make them dream about driving this car and what the gear stick's going to feel like or something, which who says that's not actually just round the corner?
How does that know what that feels like as well?
Good point. There is the question, isn't it?
AI is definitely going to be in that.
But machine learning. Machine learning. Are we still just calling it machine learning, or was AI kind of a real proper?
What are your opinions on that, from your kind of perspective?
Being an old man now, right? Being an old man, we were always told, right, AI is not going to happen. You kind of like Terminator 3 or whatever is just not in the realms. So it was always like people say AI, but always call it machine learning, which, I mean, I don't know what your view on that is now, or what is it true AI, or is everything's based on algorithms? So
I think from my perspective, for like the current models that are being run, it is just a like search engine on steroids. Yeah. It's not really like a true output. It's just what Google's doing, but better. Yeah. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at with it at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess from like looking at like more of the kind of innovation and like through design kind of aspect of it and using AI. Obviously I've seen some projects on like I think they put in a helicopter design and said, how do you improve this to be more efficient? And it kind of reiterated on like a really macro level of like, how do we optimize this to the full perspective? And came out with some bonkers designs of like, this could be what you could design to improve. And it was like kind of going into that, that kind of eco design kind of buildings, which are like kind of, I guess, they kind of look like gene,
basically biomimicry.
And it kind of came out with designs like that to optimize these kind of structures. So I think there's one for like a car cockpit that they designed. It was just absolutely bonkers. But then I guess it's like, is it going to work? And I guess you only find out once you start building, and then probably off the back of that, you're going to change it and optimize it and make it better.
Yeah, I think like the graphic designers that are good know that it's a tool. You know, it makes things easier. You still got to know how to use it. I mean, it's not that long ago that, you know, the sort of general news was saying, 3D printers, everyone's going to have one, and you're not going to buy anything anymore, which, well, it's always been completely rubbish.
Yeah.
Useful for repairing things, but like the whole kind of chat has gone away from that, and now it's more AI sort of based.
Well, it was the same with like the birth of Adobe as well.
Yeah.
Everyone thought the physical design would not kind of survive off the back of the birth of digital tools. Yeah. But I mean, we still do some physical aspects of work, but I think there's an element of like the physical is one thing, and then the digital is. It's more.
Yeah, I guess it's more craft. Well, you've got the element of craft that you can put in it, as in not just the craft of the design, but the production of the work. What was your question again? Sorry, mate. I think we went off on a tangent.
It was like, what's your opinion on AI and kind of in the kind of element of design?
In product, I think. Well, you know, I don't think it's gonna be that massively impactful, really, because I don't know. I mean, the whole world's been able to like render photorealistically products for quite a long time now. You know, you don't actually need the skills of making to communicate an idea. I mean, no doubt it's gonna just kind of like explode in iterations, but then you almost need more skill to bring those iterations back into reality, you know, the reality of materials, processes, and what makes kind of financial sense to make. You know, if something's all curvy and, you know, seamless mixtures of materials, you've got manufacturing nightmares there. Until you've got a 3D printer that can print stainless and glass, which is decades. Maybe one day, but like decades away. So you know,
it's not going to be the be all end all sort of thing.
No.
Are you using it already, or?
I don't use it really. No. It does worry me a bit though, like with, you know, what you can believe internet wise. If you know, if you can write a document that ends up you referencing on, you know, not fake, but things that aren't true, and then suddenly you got loads of documents all created by ChatGPT, whatever, that all reference the same thing that isn't true, then that outweighs the algorithm that thinks it's more true, and suddenly I don't know.
You've got a lot of misinformation.
You know, are we at the apex of being able to believe anything on the internet when you search it? You know,
I mean, I've used a few of them to kind of start writing stuff, but it really just doesn't. If I'm trying to reference something that already exists, it just doesn't get it. It doesn't understand it, and a lot of the things that it's coming out with just. It's like, it's a nice starting point, but realistically you need to kind of do your own research.
So, you know, that's it. But using it as a tool like that can be, you know, massively helpful. I mean,
we've used some of the kind of video stuff, like text to video or image to video stuff,
right?
And that's quite
I want to have a play with that.
Different. And I definitely like text to image stuff's just, that's really nice for mood boarding. But again, it's like, it's something to bounce off, isn't it? No, I think it's not there yet, definitely, but maybe in the future it might be something. I think use more and more as a tool.
That's it. You know, people become really proficient at using it as a tool. They will become the valuable people. You know? So it's not one to ignore, but it's one to like.
You'll have your on your CV. You'll have proficient with Microsoft and proficient with AI.
Yeah. It's like making a bracket for a chair, you know.
Yeah.
Like, use that as the tool that makes it sends you more towards a finished piece.
Really. Yeah. What's your kind of background and where have you kind of come from?
So I grew up in the middle of nowhere in a little village in Lancashire, and spent most of my time outdoors making dens and sheds. Are we going right back there?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I ended up kind of being the first person in our family to go to university, and did an engineering degree, worked for the Ministry of Defence for a little bit.
Really?
On Eurofighter, and
cool.
which is called Typhoon now.
Where was that?
Munich.
The
head office over there, which is weird because like you're in Germany and there's a lot of English people there, and they're all from Leyland and Preston. Right?
Is it like a offshoot of BAE over there, or?
So with each of those big projects, when you've got multiple nations, they all have like a team hub where you'll get BAE people, and then from the other nations as well. So that was interesting time, but I did realise that I was not really sitting in an office wasn't really my kind of thing. And when you work for the MOD on those sort of projects, you don't really get to design anything. You get to tell people what not to do and stuff, which is really like not something I like doing. So I went to the Royal College of Art, and there used to be a course there which has changed slightly, but it used to be just for engineers to learn product design. So kind of reprogramming your brain into thinking about problem solving and using your background engineering skills, but tune that in a way to create innovation. And then after that, I went and spent a year in the Bauhaus at Dessau, working on the future of how technology would influence urban space, urban life. And then worked out in Japan for a little bit with some craft companies and cycling equipment companies, designing new things for them, which was massively interesting, you know, being embedded in a completely different culture for a while. But having kind of travelled around a lot and taken every opportunity to travel, I came home with like sketchbooks full of ideas and things to do. And
so it was quite an inspiring space
to be in. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like going to the Royal College was a complete brain reprogramming and like, mind-opening experience from, you know, what opportunities are out there with those sort of skills. So, So for the last 20 years, actually, Raw Studio is 20 years old this year.
Oh,
I've been basically trying to make as many of these ideas from back then reality.
Yeah.
Because I came back thinking, all right, all these ideas, a lot of them are a bit niche. No one's going to do anything about them for me. I've got to do it myself. So,
That's cool.
And now I do consultancy for other companies as well.
Yeah.
Still looking at, I did a lot of work on like wearable tech and that sort of thing. Kind of turn of the millennium when we were all supposed to be wearing head-up displays and all that, which is
still not here yet.
Yeah. So the things that the big companies tell you is the future, but fall down on them being a bit rubbish or not having a real need for them.
Or it's I guess it's technology's not there yet as well as an aspect of it.
Yeah. It would be
works,
good if
it works, but it's like in 10 years' time it's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
And meet the kind of expectations of the consumer.
Yeah.
Because everyone's used to that high quality fidelity of like general video games, and then you get presented with something that's like subpar.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, right, we need to kind of get to that.
Yeah.
But it's going to take an extra 10 years to get to that sort of thing.
But I think a lot of that it might constantly lag behind, you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It seems like a lot of the things that are kind of pushed 10 years later were probably seeded by the gamers of 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
What games were there been then? Was it Fable? I think I played back then. I'm trying to think how old Modern Warfare was as well.
Mate, don't ask me. I kind of gave up on them in the 90s.
Just obviously, when you were talking through the story, I was kind of questions popped into my head of like.
Yeah.
So, on your time at RCA, I think I've always kind of looked at it as like, if you want to, like so many people I'm talking to now would like go into or have been to RCA and they're just kind of transformed their direction in life a lot of the time. Why do you think RCA is kind of good for people to go to experience?
It's an amazing kind of culture to be part of and thing to be in. I mean, I think that's a real beauty of like British education, is at that level you're so kind of left to yourself to find your direction. And for me, like the course we were on, right, we were the kind of like weirdos on the second floor because we were the ones with engineering degrees, you know, whereas everyone else in the building had already done like undergrad in you know, whatever their design thing was, you know, like graphics or communications, fashion, fine art, whatever. So I guess people on our course had sort of more of a transformation, but just so much going on, and the teachers back then were like some really inspirational people too. I don't know what it's like these days as much, but I'll not go into that.
Does it still meet those standards of what you?
I think so. Yeah, but that's the good thing. It's like it's what you want to take out of it. Yeah. And I mean, it seems like most of the people who really learned from it were people that like fell out with the place in the meantime, or fell out with the process and had, you know, like I did for a little bit. It was you know, I got told that my kind of main project was possibly not going to be. Like, I was like, what? All right. Went away. Okay, I'll do another one, and then the one that I did worked out really well. So you know,
it's when reflection. It's
It
pushed like, you in the right direction.
That's it. You know, and you need to be you know, willing to kind of do that. Take that. Talk about failure. You know, it's like, okay, I'll take that advice on that specific project, which is actually a wearable technology one, and went and did something completely different, which was. Trying to create a new winter sport, but you know, there we go.
And was that one that you were doing there, the new winter sport one, was that the project that you pushed forward and you kind of showed me? It was a
snowboarding. Snowboard. Series 1 of Dragon's Den. Got the money.
What kind of inspired that project then?
It was, I guess, that I could see other people doing projects on stuff that I would find like quite boring. Like, I don't know, let's say vacuum cleaners, for instance. I would find that kind of boring. I just thought, right, I'm going to do my best work on things that I actually am interested in. And I think that's a really good lesson for everyone, really, you know. I was really into snowboarding from kind of early doors of that. So I started snowboarding in like 92, 93. And just thinking about the evolution of extreme sports, you know, I used to bike ride quite a lot and whatever, skateboard too. So, you know, if you do a little like map, all of these ideas are crossovers of each other in a way, you know? Yeah. Kind of, you could argue skateboarding came from surfing. When there were no waves, and you know.
And it
So
evolved
it's got wheels on it.
Now
right?
become an Olympic sport.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought, you know? Well, actually, if you look at a lot of those more sort of gymnastic-y style-based ones, right? Look at snowboarding, like half-pipe stuff now, or, you know, big ramp stuff. It's you're going to be really good at that if you're a gymnast.
Yeah.
I think that English guy recently, he was like near enough, just a superb gymnast. Mix that with snowboarding, you can do things way better than someone who's come from like, you know, ollieing up a curb.
It's like
back in the day.
A lot of footballers go into like kickboxing and karate and that sort of things just to
like Jean-Claude Van Damme, what's he like, ballet and kickboxing or something? But if you do like I remember doing like a family tree of like extreme sports and seeing where they cross over, and it was just the time, remember like micro scooter things were coming about, which initially were actually, you think, oh, they're really good, they're quite useful, but then when like everyone's 5-year-old or 4-year-old had one and was whipping down the street, it was like, okay, we can't ride, you know, that's not a useful thing anymore. I was looking at snow bikes. There are loads of snow bikes and, you know, invented decades ago. Never really caught on why, you know, what are the components, what are the processes. So mine was like, can there be like a hybrid of a BMX and a snowboard where you actually use an existing snowboard? Yeah. And that's what I did, proved, made, and pitched, got the funds, but then our dragon went bankrupt on us.
Oh, damn.
Which was like...
How if he hadn't, where do you think it would have been? She.
Who knows? I mean, there were a few of the it was almost like too much of a rush to get things right. But the weird thing is like, you know, that's over 10 years ago. But I've kind of constantly moved things along. So, and when you look at what's happened in the last sort of 10 years or so with kind of bikes and snowboarding, like snowboarding now is so mainstream. I don't think there's anywhere you can't not snowboard. Whereas like when I was, it's like you had to look whether that resort would let you on there on the snowboard.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally, mate. There's so many places didn't allow snowboarding.
Has anyone else kind of pushed that idea forward since then?
No, and that makes no sense to me either, because I'm thinking this as a product really makes sense, especially for, you know, people from the UK travelling, because it folds up and whatever. You can ride it without having to wear big boots. All the force transfer into the edges and your control goes through your upper body rather than your legs, right? So even if it was for people who, you know, have issues with like lower limb, lower limb control and can't snowboard particularly well, you'd be able to
it's a nice like first step.
Yeah, that as well. And also, you look at, I mean, my favourite movement of recent times, you know, they're like all the kids wheeling around town, you know. Ironically, not ironically, serendipitously, I've got the Bike Storms t-shirt on, because like those ride outs went from right next to where we were living in London, and I'd go on them as well, and took like my 2-year-old daughter on the front of my big BMX on those rides around London where everyone's popping wheelies. I mean, you've got to watch that Storyville documentary if you've not seen it.
Oh no, I haven't.
Have you not seen it?
No,
it's called If the Streets Were Fire or something like that.
Cool.
It was on recently.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. But you know, with those sort of things where you've got such a wave of kids now becoming massively proficient at wheeling bikes, you know, and bike control, you think, all right, so could this be an avenue to help those guys get out to ride on snow and whatever, you know? And like snowboarding back in the day was the sort of like more punk piratey thing on the slopes. Not so much anymore. You know, if you're gonna kind of get to the top, you're risking your life. You got to do triple corks and take on, you know, whoever on a sharp, icy corner. But, you know, to start from scratch with a new sport. And also, with YouTube, and everyone's got a camera. Half the idea is, if we do get to launch it again, we'll set that up with the whole media side ready, where we've got a gallery. You can upload, make your own trick up, stick it on the website. You invented your own trick, give it a name, and you own it forever. No one else will have done it because they've not used that bit of kit and tried that thing. But we've got loads of footage and stuff of us riding them in the past, and because you can move your feet around. There's all sorts you can do, like bar flips. And
are you gonna revive it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just need to get some riders together, really. Yeah. I mean, I do have a bit of a plan. There's a bunch of like bike related bits and pieces that I've been working on, and the first project is just kind of, we finally found the right people to make the product and get that out. So hopefully, I'd like to kind of give myself my own challenge of like, making that happen.
Get it mainstream.
Well, yeah. But it's good. Like it's even become much more easy to produce something like that in the UK these days as well. So, and the design process that you've gone through, having had more time, it's like you're constantly refining it, designing it so it's viable to make in the UK and not dependent on like having to buy container loads of them from Taiwan or China,
So it's going to be UK made product.
Yeah, man.
UK riders.
Yeah.
Over in where would you take them?
Well, I do like Austria. But I don't know. I mean, we've done stuff in some of the like snow domes and things. Yeah. But
to Scotland.
Oh yeah. We went actually.
My auntie does a lot of snowboarding in Scotland.
Yeah, we went up to Glen Shee. It'll be 10 years ago now. Last time we had a little bit of funding to go out and have a play. We took a mate of mine, Chris Mahoney. Shout out to Chris, who is a great, awesome guy. First person to do a double backflip on a BMX.
Sure.
Never been on snow before. Gave him the snowbone to ride. And on the end of the first day, he was going off the biggest kicker in Glen Shee. Talk about something that's intuitive.
Yeah.
If you got the skills as a bike rider, of like knowing where your handlebars are, basically. Yeah. You can pick up.
It'd be a brilliant pitch to Red Bull, though.
Well, funny enough, yeah. It's one of those things. Well, there's Red Bull people we've spoken to in the past.
Yeah.
But, it's just a case of everything lining up right. I think that's the thing with innovation. It's nearly all about timing. You've got to have everything lined up at the right time.
Yeah, and as you kind of working through, I guess the innovation bubbles, like for us, it's like we feel like we've been through 3 bubble cycles of different techs coming in, different techs coming out, and we're kind of adapting to the time of like we have projects, and ultimately it's all working towards that kind of momentum point of when the tech comes back in, we're like ready to go, sort of thing.
That's right. I think it's in an analogy of that with snowbone. Basically, is you got to have your design right, your manufacturing right, your people in place, and then the opportunity to get things out there,
the jump.
and also have all the background ready to make the most of the media side of things. So
just going back to the whole like Bauhaus stuff you were talking about as well, and they're kind of looking at innovation within city design. What did you work on there, and how has that kind of influenced today, I guess?
The project we were given was about redevelopment of a specific site in like downtown Sydney, Australia, and we did we had lots of people come talk to us, lots of research with big architects of the day, and people working with Zaha Hadid and stuff like that. A lot of like algorithm driven design kind of
machine learning.
Yeah, exactly. And we were trying to create kind of little projects of how could some of the kind of crossing over of architectural concepts turn into reality. I mean, it was an interesting one for me, being kind of like a northerner, right? You know, speak your mind kind of northerner, where you're in a room full of people. Well, there was only 12 of us on the project, right? But everyone was from all over the world, architects, artists. It was my first experience of mixing backgrounds, or, you know, mixing different, not trades, but learnings together. So working with like social geographers and video artists, and architects. Like, how do you work?
Like pure collaboration.
Oh, it was just brilliant. You know, I was the only product designer, but I would always kind of, in a northern brash product designer way, go, right, okay, I just listened to your half an hour talk there. Do you mean this? You know, it's almost like going, you're describing a cup and whatever, and I go, is it that? Right? And if they didn't go, yeah, I'd be like, okay, then I just don't get it. You
needed to like visualize it in your own way.
Well, just there was a lot of, you know, and I think a lot of people get exasperated with it all when it's a bit overly intellectual and like whiffly waffly, right? You know, and when I'm about making things, right? So a really good friend of mine, Pierre, who's like a really intellectual architect, the kind of guy who in his second language of English would never use the same word twice in a conversation because he's so clever. And we used to work really well together because I'm kind of the opposite, right? But we could turn our conversation into something real. So talking about like mixing architectural programs, which is kind of like, you know, this is commercial or you know, private, or, you know, and turn that into a different kind of space or product even. And it worked really well. I mean, weirdly, the furniture that I've been making for the past kind of 15 years, that's like outdoor pieces which are 3D shapes or 3D spaces designed out of 2D shapes, comes from a specific project we did at the Bauhaus, which was you know, how do we turn like this empty car park space into something that was like financial residential, like a hotel, right? Okay. So we designed these little pods that came out of the ground, right?
Oh, cool.
A bit kind of, you know, not about what is the reality of it, like, oh, what could it be, right? And then thinking about it, like, oh, well, actually, if you cut these out in a certain way, they can all fall flat and then create a space, and they could be like a bit like a pod hotel in Japan, that sort of thing, or homeless shelters, where, you know, the whole thing disappears in the daytime and you park on top of it, and at night time there's no cars there anyway. So, and
then you put it back up.
So I think that was why these sort of projects happened at the Bauhaus, because they do have a real commercial arm of city planning. So like I mentioned, Addis Ababa in Ethiopia was designed, the town plan was designed by people in, you know, just outside Berlin.
And it's just like a group of creative thinkers coming up with concepts and
ideas
of what could be.
That's right, yeah. So for us, you know, it's all about extrapolation. You know, if you went, I remember some of the others in the group went off on a tangent on like, what if everything was a kind of visual surface, or like a screen, you know? Like every wall and every tabletop was a screen, what would happen? I mean, it'd be an absolute nightmare. But, you know.
Everyone would have square eyes.
But it was really like interesting, you know, the kind of environments that came out of it, you know. So,
yeah, it sounds quite interesting. Yeah. And then that took you over to Japan.
Japan was an opportunity I just took because my old kind of head of course at the RCA, they had a connection with a certain area of Japan, and he said, well, we send people over there every year. Would you like to go? I was like, cool. Yep, I'm off. Yeah. a really amazing experience, you know, like going to somewhere that is a completely different culture, you know.
How did it change your kind of design thinking?
Well,
or I guess not change, but inspire.
I guess you get another awareness. I mean, the area of Japan that I was in, Gifu Prefecture, was really famous for its craft. So like washi paper lamps, like
that one, yeah.
You know, like the original ones were Izumu Noguchi, who's a Japanese American sculptor from the sort of mid-century, a bit before, went over there to worked with those factories to create those, and they're all based on like traditional lamps anyway. And then you've got other ceramics as well. But the most interesting thing I think that lingers for me from Japan is that kind of beauty of imperfection. You know, if something's not completely, you know, standard and set, like a kind of fake melamine top on a table, there's a beauty in the uniqueness of it. So, you know, look at your average British person would not be able to pick out of a lineup what was a really expensive Japanese ceramic and what wasn't, you know, because there are always things that have a glaring imperfection to them. So, you know,
I guess, I mean, that kind of comes back to why we kind of set up the company, which was exploring the beauty of imperfection and the uniqueness of being able to scan something that is one of one truly. And really exploring that kind of like, why do we idolize these kind of individualities to things?
That's it. I mean, if you look at that, how that culture's kind of continued over generations, it's a bit different to here or the West, where, you know, we've basically been sold things out of factories for so long, you know, where everything's the same. You know, you want it like Mrs. Jones down the street or whatever, you know. Not all right, washing machines are a bit different, but like when it comes to product, it's about, you know, wanting the same one and not something that becomes its own unique thing. And it's a bit sad really, because like if you look at what are heirloom products, you know, heirloom things that are in the family, they're all things that age well. They're all things that last forever, and have that. Yeah, they're made right, made out of the right things, not fake stuff. Not kind of chromed and shiny for the sake of it looking good on a shelf. It's about what works over time. So
functional and
So for me, that I find that's quite a big part of the things that make sense for me to work on. You know, like with the chess set. Which is really very sort of geometric and kind of perfect when you get it, but it's all about using it and how it evolves and ages over time, and then, you know, gathers stories of it. You know, if it's a travel one, where did you go with it? And
I guess that's also the same with like your outdoor stuff as well. It's like that will change and age and become unique.
That's right.
Overuse and that's quite interesting though. And where do you kind of see, I guess, Raw Studio kind of moving towards, and obviously through your iterative like innovation and what you've learned, where are you kind of pushing towards now? What?
Well, having kind of moved out of London a couple of years ago and got a bit more space up in Heysham, trying to set out so we can batch produce a wider range of things really. You know, I've kind of purposefully, for a bit of laziness, like let the whole like website stuff kind of go a bit. But I know now I need to sort that out. Actually, basically make and sell more things. But as it is with my process, it's like having an extra year or two to think about things. You end up with a better process that makes the product better when it's good to go. So
and I mean, all your products that you've kind of created as well, like, because they're like handmade and unique, I guess you are looking to kind of get them out into the, I guess, the more exclusive places of like.
Yeah, it's a funny one that it's like, with the chess sets, for example, they're not cheap, but they're not massively expensive. I don't say they're silly money just to make them exclusive. It's like, I'm getting the leatherwork made by some fantastically skilled people in Lancashire. The parts are made on a basically £1 million bit of kit that doesn't normally make things like that at all, right?
Yeah.
But like I say, that's a real process-driven origin of concept for me. But I've never done any marketing for it or anything. It's been word of mouth. So there's certain very rich people have them because they're really into chess and have found it out. So it's one of those things that I do need to do is kind of get the word out in those niches a bit more.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, that the sort of technology of now that allows you to create in small numbers niche things is a million times easier to find a market for it than it was 30 years ago.
Do you think you'll do more made-to-order things?
Batch producing, really.
Yeah.
If you do things like that are just one-offs, it's kind of too much time. It
costs too much as well, probably, to make.
Yeah, exactly. But to have an excuse to design something and go, okay, actually that'll be a valid product as well. I mean, I'm working on a desk for someone at the moment who's asked me to do a desk for them. And just that thought process of, okay, right, if I'm going to do a desk, so this is for specific customers, got to work really well for them, but how many extra little functionalities can you add in to make a really nice desk that can then be a product that we can reproduce? Because once you've made the first one, that's all the hard work done in a way.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at. Is like, I guess for us, it's like we go out and try and create custom solutions for people and for businesses, and we're already kind of thinking, right, actually, these have some legs and some weight to them. How can we actually iterate these and even take that concept and kind of build it into something that we would want to kind of power through and champion, I guess. I guess it's important to always have that head switched on to like, I'm doing this one thing, but actually there's a bigger picture here, sort of thing. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, you can't help it but think. Right? That it's like with the say chess set thing. Well, obviously I've got a backgammon set up my sleeve, kind of ready to go, but not quite finished yet. And there was like a noughts and crosses one, which is really neat. So half the time I'm torn between, well, if I really concentrated on like creating a nice set of games, well, that would be a business in itself. So because I do the furniture stuff as well,
you're already kind of in that like home kind of realm anyway, aren't you?
But then it's one of those things. It's like, okay, well, why should I just be doing one sort of thing? Like for me, the all of the ideas and products that I make, I can like do a sort of family tree of how all the ideas have kind of crossed over to create new ones. So the lighting stuff that I do,
I love the lighting stuff.
Definitely originally comes from trying to integrate lighting into the furniture, which it doesn't anymore. It's kind of gone off in its own tangent.
It's got its own little bubble.
It's got its own gravity to it, and it's like, but it works. And that's what I really enjoy about it, is creating new stuff.
So when's your kitchen appliances coming?
Which ones?
Have you got any?
Well, I mean, we started with the coffee, some of the coffee stuff, right? So, they did, well, I don't know.
Cups. I've got really into like pottery at the moment, and finding unique pieces of like just cups, and stuff like that. Again, like handmade, interesting things.
Yeah. I've got kind of too many ceramics friends to. So I feel like I'd be like treading on toes if I went in that direction. So I'll
you'll have to